Hello everyone, and welcome to Kikachu News, where on my show we talk all about Pokemon. But today, this is very different today. We're actually going to bring a special guest who's going to talk about his scientific research about bioethics and animal cruelty. Come on in, special guest.
Hello, my name's Isaac Martinez, and I'm here to talk about animal rights ethics.
Awesome, we're so happy to have you today. So Isaac, why don't we start this off by telling us a little bit about why this topic is important to you and why it should be important to the public?
Well, I think it should be important to the public because it's just something that is not really commonly talked about. It's important to me since I was a kid. I've been wanting to take care of animals. It's kind of just been a dream for me, aspiring to be a veterinarian. And to the public, it should be important because animals play a key role in just society in general. So the least we can do is just try to take care of them and just prevent them from being abused.
Okay. You mentioned key roles. Like, what do you mean by that?
So maybe like the people nowadays might be familiar with terms like a rescue dog or a therapy dog, and those are just kind of examples of the key roles that animals in general have been playing in our society. They are trained to help people in certain situations, and having them help us, like the least we can do is just protect them.
Okay. That's pretty cool. Do you happen to have any animals that you have worked with and trained with?
Personally, no. But I would really like to. There's the SPCA, which helps with taking in animals who are strays, as well as having them help other people by giving them a home and having the people start these new relationships and kind of helping out each other.
Okay, I love that answer. SPCA Monterey County, down the street, guys. They went down there. Anyway.
Good plug right there.
Could have written letters. Anyway. So, Mr. Isaac Martinez, how can you tell us more about animal cruelty and the rights of it? Let's start with the history of this dilemma. Like, how did it all start?
So it dates back to the 1800s, if not earlier than that, when the UK started their first legislation called Martin's Act, which mostly protected cattle and horses, just animals that help with the everyday chores and just errands and stuff like that. So, cattle's for like milking and getting that kind of thing, and also horses with like carriages and such. And then it kind of just led to the creation of the SPCA in the UK, the Society of Protection from Cruelty of Animals. But then there was the American counterpart, which is the SPCA, created a few decades after that.
Okay. What can you, because SPCA, you talk a lot about that, like, as of right now. Tell me more about the SPCA. Like, what do you know more about them?
So in a local sense, the Monterey one, they don't just take in small animals, they also take in larger animals like horses. They have like they have an equestrian area, I believe. And they really have more of a policy. I don't know how to explain it. How should I explain that?
What do you mean?
Like that non-kill shelter.
So
policy.
what I've heard is that the SPCA Monterey County is a no-kill shelter,
Yes.
which, based on personal experience, because I used to own an animal, they don't euthanize animals.
Yes.
Yes, right?
That makes
Yeah.
sense. Yes. They do not euthanize animals. It's the 90%, right? Or something like that. But no.
I think so.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Interesting. And do you know if the SPCA raise animal? Do you know if the SPCA of Monterey County or any SPCA in general, if they raise animal abuse awareness?
They do actually. They reach out with volunteers in the community in general to try to spread awareness just for animal abuse in general. Like I know with the CSUB campus, they have a Greek organization, sorority, which helps raise awareness for animal abuse on campus. The Delta Omega Rose.
Wow, I would love to meet them. They sound like big people.
Yeah. Yeah, they are.
So the SPCA, you mentioned it a lot. So what are some changes that have occurred with animal rights due to animal abuse, other than the creation of the SPCA?
Another major change was the split into factions once it started getting more supporters, and it really happened after cases of animal experimentation started kind of just popping up in the news, just people discovering all these trials being done. And the two factions that were created was the animal rights supporters and the animal welfare supporters. And there's actually a pretty significant difference. The animal rights supporters are the people who advocate for just animals being able to live their lives naturally, outside of laboratories and that kind of thing. And the animal welfare supporters are the type of people who can get behind the animal experimentations as long as the animals are well taken care of, like under proper living conditions and just things like that. And it kind of just happened when more and more cases of animal experimentation started coming up. Like there was this documentary called Food Inc. And in that documentary they talked about a chicken farm which was mass producing chickens for livestock. And in the film you could see that there was like hundreds of chickens cooped up in like this barn, and the farmer just started giving more details as to the process of how they are grown and the conditions that they were living under. And it just didn't seem like favorable conditions, at least not for the chickens. They went into more details, kind of just like telling us that they had growth hormones being put in their feed, as well as some antibiotics, and that affected the chickens by making them grow several times faster, which might sound like a good thing in terms of like making more livestock, which created more food, but it was very, very cruel to the chickens because the maturation of their muscles and like the other parts of their body was just too fast for their other parts of their body to like keep up with. So like their bone structure and other like inner organs that they would actually need to be able to function properly, it just wasn't able to keep up. So in the documentary you were able to see these huge chickens that were only 7 weeks old and they couldn't even take 3 steps without falling over.
Right.
And it just seemed very, very terrible, honestly. Just having like not even in person, just seeing that on film, it just didn't seem right. And to make matters worse is the presence of antibiotics wasn't just affecting the chickens. According to the documentary, it was also affecting the farmer. The farmer was talking about how they have developed immunity to most antibiotics, which means that if the farmer were to get some kind of like even a minor infection that could normally easily be treated by antibiotics, it would be a very severe situation for her because they wouldn't be able to treat it with the antibiotics. So antibiotics could be made pretty easily, new ones can be made, but it takes time. And depending on the severity of the infection, depending on what the situation is for the farmer, she might not have that time.
Right.
So it just puts the people in danger who are raising these animals, as well as the animals themselves.
Yeah. Do you know with farming and the cruelty of just making plumpier chickens for the benefit of humans? Do you think that's why like a lot of people go vegan with that aspect?
It would make sense, why vegans make the decision to just change their diet and their lifestyle, due to the fact that if they can lower demand, then that would, make corporations and industries lower the supply. So in turn, that would kind of just save, a certain amount of animals from having to endure such a process. It does make sense. I do think that might be a reason for why they do that.
Now, since you know that some farms do this to chickens, have you considered going vegan or doing some type of vegetarian diet?
I have considered it. It's just there's a lot of dietary information, just like theories and methods that are just in social media, and what is really been going around is like eat less meat, eat more vegetables, and that kind of thing. But when it comes to dietary needs, it's more of a balance. So it's not consuming less meat or just no meat at all that's the issue, or that's like a possible solution. It's more of just having a balanced diet where you limit the amount of meat, as well as having a proper sized portion of vegetables and fruits to go along with your diet to get all the necessary nutrients, vitamins, and minerals that you might need on a daily basis.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Man, I maybe I like chicken too. That's okay. I'll think about that one for chicken. So, with farming, are there like, do you have any ideas on how to, I guess, make a better method of farming? Because farming is pretty, it's hard to give love to a cow when you know its destiny is to die, you know. So for chickens or for pigs, for all those animals that die for us to eat, what are some ideas that you may have that, I guess, make their, like the animal welfare people say, animal supporters say, like, what are some ways we can like make their life not cruel
Okay.
when they're gonna die anyway? Like, that aspect.
Yeah, there could be like the concept of like free range farms.
Okay.
So it's kind of just like instead of having the animals cooped up like the chickens, maybe having them be able to roam free and live their lives naturally while they can. Like it wouldn't change the fact that they would still become livestock and used later to like be processed food, but it would at least give them the opportunity to be comfortable in their own natural area, and then kind of making living conditions significantly better for them instead of being trapped in a confined space. That could be a possible method of improving the living conditions for animals and farms.
Okay. Free range farms. Okay. Now let's take farming into a more scientific approach, because based on your history, I've realized that you are a scientist at CU Monterey Bay. So, as a scientist, you do tons of experiments for the benefit of humanity. And with the animal welfare people, they are behind the experimentation and they look at the methods of how the animals are being taken care of, right?
Yes.
So, as a scientist, what's your intake on animal experimentation?
So when it comes to animal experimentation, I feel like the ends do not always justify the means. When it comes to animal experimentation for the benefit of makeup companies and such as those kind of results, I don't think it's worth it. It could easily just stop. People are constantly trying to make more makeups to create new formulas and create new things. If what they have works, I feel like they should just keep it that way, and like they could easily cease any future animal experimentations. I do also think that that's not always the case. So for, let's say, cloning, which could potentially help, like being like transferring that concept to humans as well. So like for patients who need an organ transplant, if we could experiment on animal organs to kind of like transplant for the animals within the same species, kind of just helping them by creating new organs to help them survive. We can use that research to help humans in the future, and I feel like that type of animal experimentation could be beneficial, and as well as like having methods in place to ensure that the animal is in like proper living conditions and is not being treated in any cruel way. I feel like that kind of experimentation is a situation where the ends would justify the means.
Right.
It's a more of a controversial topic when it comes to animal experimentation. It just kind of depends on the situation. If the experiments and the research is meant to save lives for both animals and humans, I feel like that would be a worthy cause. But when it comes to materialistic things like makeup or any other such companies, I feel like it just wouldn't be worth it.
Right. So, with your stance on animal testing, you would say that you are for testing as long as the regulation, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Now let's go to the counter argument of this ethics, because whether we like it or not, people or scientists will test on animals for the benefit of humanity. So, to you, would you say that in the scientific community, could we continue with our research without animal testing? Or would you say that we should just switch the teams and make it human testing?
I feel like it wouldn't be impossible to continue without animals. It would just make it that much more difficult to continue the research. it could be possible that research can be continued with past results, so we can use information that we've already, or that not us personally, but like that other researchers have gotten from past animal experimentation, and use that to make, in a way, predictions or hypothesis about how future results could turn up without actually experimenting on animals. In terms of changing in a completely different way to starting human trials, I feel like that would be like a dangerous route to go.
Okay. So let's, swirl the pot a little bit. Let's kind of jump to a different topic, a similar topic. So as humans, like you said, with livestock, we either treat them well or treat them cruelly, only for the benefit of their destiny of ending in death. With chickens, some people plump them up to make them, fat chicken. Because fat chicken is good chicken sometimes. And cows, we feed them certain types of, what do they eat? Grass.
Yeah.
To make the beef tender or give us necessary nutrients. So with this question, we treat livestock as if they're nothing. We only use them for marketing purposes. The plumpier chicken, the more likely it will be sold in a grocery store. So let's think of it as a cultural aspect. Like in America, to what extent do different species of animals like have? So for example, we can eat a chicken, we can eat a cow, we can eat a pig. Every now and then we can eat a goat. But to your opinion, why is it that we can eat a chicken but we can't eat a dog? Why is it that we can chop off a cow's head but we can't, eat a cat? So to you, what's that limitation? What would stop you from eating a dog?
I think that's, like you said, it's more of a cultural thing. Every culture has its way of favoring certain animals over others. It's not really something that's been developed like legally, at least not that I know of. It's more just people who have a preference towards having more household pets and keeping them safe rather than having farm animals and keeping them more protected. And in a sense, they kind of there's this, I guess, hierarchy of just animal protection just kind of formed due to just society's preferences, I guess. As you said, like in America, we do use animals like cows, pigs, and goats and chickens as livestock, where we only keep dogs, cats, and other such animals within our households and keep them protected. And there's other cultures who have it in similar ways, but just with different animals and different, I guess, spots in the hierarchy, I guess. So like if we go to the culture of India, I believe, they praise the cow and they don't use the cow as livestock. They put it on this pedestal to be protected as, well, at least as much as a household pet in America, if not more. I can't speak for the culture myself, but I can understand that they wouldn't want to harm the cow. Like it's just an animal that they hold in high regards, I guess.
I would say for religion purposes. I'm not entirely sure, but I think that's the reason.
Yeah, that might be it. Yeah, and so it's kind of just something that forms due to the society and the community and just the way that they mold their beliefs, and then that kind of just leads to the formation of a hierarchy where some animals are protected and more, or have more protection in a sense than others.
So with that comment, could you say that in this country in particular, some animals have more rights than others?
In a legal sense, I don't know. I haven't researched that, that side of the topic. But looking at it in a perspective of just kind of like the the way that the society is running things. I would agree with that. That some animals have more protection than others, just because people can spend thousands of dollars, making sure that their dogs and cats are healthy, but then other people would just not really care much for farm animals, like
Yeah.
like the example with the chicken farm. Like they pay like very low amounts of money just to like mass produce the chickens in such poor conditions.
Okay. Okay.
Mhm.
Pausing. All right. Well, what up with a commercial break, and we return with Miss Martinez. And when we come back, he will talk about how animal rights relate to Pokemon. So that's gonna be a great thing to talk about. And definitely about slavery and animals. Okay. But come back next time in 5 minutes.
If you or a loved one have money to severe.
All right. Well, why don't we go to commercial break, and when we return, me and Isaac are going to talk about how animal cruelty will relate to Pokemon. Because if you know, Pokemon's all about animal cruelty, but in a good way. Don't worry, guys. I'm not going to kill your childhood. See you in 5 minutes, guys.